on the computer.
Are you
Right.
ready?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Kristine, for being willing to talk to us. This is Kristine Coblentz, who is our the director of the LAPS Healthy Schools Initiative. So I'm going to hand it off to you, Kristine.
Lucia, I really appreciate the invitation. It's good to be back. The last time we did a presentation like this, we were seated in the gathering room on the couches, so I missed that. But I do know that we're all optimizing this format, and I'm glad you were able to come anyway. We'll hopefully be able to create some connection even in this virtual space. So thanks for being here. So I am the director of the Healthy Schools Initiative. I've been doing this job for 3 years. So it's not new, but it feels just as challenging as at the beginning, even especially in a pandemic where my job is to support staff and student well-being. So that's been an interesting pivot to figure out how to do that now, to continue what we've been working on and to introduce some new ideas. And if you know me, you know one of my passions is using mindfulness as a real foundation for well-being. And so we'll be talking today about different ways you can apply mindfulness in your life. Today, I'd love to start with a settle-in practice that will help us sort of fully arrive and let go of whatever might have been happening before or what you have to do afterwards or even what's happening in the moment. So I invite you to find your seat. So whatever kind of surface you're sitting on, if you can reach your feet to the floor, that can be helpful. My chair is a little tall, so I'm going to move it just an inch. Feet on the floor and your seat on the surface, just feel that grounding first. So find the connection to the floor, the earth, to the whatever surface you're sitting on. And then we'll just take 3 deep breaths together. So this morning, I'm feeling like I need a little movement. I've been sitting at my desk all morning. So if you would like to, you can add arms. So it'll be simple. All we'll do is as we breathe in, we lift the arms up. So join me in an inhale, inhaling, lifting arms up. And exhaling, releasing back down. Oh, let the shoulders release. And a second inhale, inhaling up, raising the arms, breathing in, filling the body with air. And then exhaling, releasing completely. And finally, one last breath to fully arrive. Breathe in everything you need to be present in this moment. And then exhale, release everything out that you don't need to carry right now. And just know 3 deep breaths can help us land and gives us sort of permission to say, hey, I think I can be here now just for the next hour and enjoy this content and this activity. So I would love to find out, and we have some cameras off. Do we have chat feature or Lissy? Are we able to use the chat?
I believe so. I haven't disabled it or anything, so it should be fine.
All right, you could do this in one of 2 ways. So I'm just looking sort of for a baseline of knowledge base. So if you're able to do a hand signal, a fist would be 0. I have never practiced mindfulness. I don't know much about it, really don't know that much about it. And 3 would be, I could teach this stuff. I know so much about this. I'm just here because I love to practice in community together. So maybe you're somewhere in between. If you know a little bit, it might be a 1 or a 2. So if you could also chat these numbers in the chat 0 to 3. So where are we? Where are we in this room from 0 to 3? Awesome. We got a couple, we got a 1. Nice. That's good to know. A couple 2s. All right. Yeah, thank you. That is so helpful to give me an idea of knowledge base in the room. No, you're right. The awesome thing about simple mindfulness is no matter what level of knowledge or experience we're at, we can always practice. There's always room to grow. But this will help me know how to give a bit of a baseline of information. So those are my goals today. First of all, I would love for you to leave with a basic definition of what mindfulness is. And then second, I want to just talk frankly about our current situation and how that's affecting us. And then third, I'd love for you to have a short experience of practicing mindfulness together, and then a few tools, some takeaways that you can practice right tomorrow or today with your family or by yourself. It's so good to see people greeting each other. I love that. So again, hi, Christy. Using the chat, if you could let me know, I just want to know who's in the room. So if you could let me know in the chat, what ages are the people in your family unit? So you don't have to give away adult ages if you don't want to, but if you have little ones in your family, I'm curious, what ages are they? And I'll type mine in the chat. Oh, they're not in my house, which is so sad. Excellent.
Since we
So
had
have,
another person or two pop in, I want to say just FYI, we are recording for this to be posted later. So feel free to do whatever you need to do to make yourself comfortable with that.
so I just disclosed the other people who need mindfulness in my household. That is helpful. We have such a great age span. So that's going to help me adjust what we do today, because we have everything from littles to teenagers to adults who may need these practices as well. So thank you. That is so helpful. And know that anything we practice together today can be adapted. So bringing it up to a more appropriate level for teenagers or adults, or bringing it more playful and more fun to younger students. Excellent. Thank you for that. So what is mindfulness? The very basic definition I use is learning to pay attention in the present moment. What could be more simpler than that, or more difficult? So learning to pay attention in the present moment. And I like to add on with kindness and curiosity. So it definitely has a certain attitude, not a judgy attitude or a should attitude, but a kind attitude. And this is not my definition. It's a pretty standard definition of secular mindfulness. But there are two pretty strong myths. And the first myth is that becoming a mindful person takes a long time. It takes a lot of time and effort. You have to sit for long periods of time or do some kind of special tradition or ritual. And that is a myth. Mindfulness can be woven into everything you do. And the benefits are pretty quick if you start integrating a mindfulness practice into your life. The second myth is a sad one, and that is that mindfulness is about being calm. That's what we all wish for, right? That bliss and calm and perfect peace. Well, that might become a side effect of practicing mindfulness. The true practice is becoming aware and present with whatever arises. Because what we're learning now is our life is pretty up and down. So I'm not feeling in my blissful Zen-like state, honestly, very often. So mindfulness is a way for us to strengthen that muscle of being present for whatever arises. And there's a lot of power in that. So just to get those two myths out of the way, that mindfulness takes a lot of time and that you might just have instant magic wand type effects. It's just good to know that as a baseline. So how do we do it? I'm going to go kind of through the how and the why and the what for during our time together. So first of all, how do we do it? The most classic way is to focus on anchors. So to use what we already have in the body and around us as a focusing point, something that's always there. And the number one is our breath. So our breath, we breathe thousands of times a day. We don't have to find it, lose it. Our breath is always there as an anchor. Our body is also always present, and we tend in our culture to kind of spend a lot of time up here. So up in this little part of our body, in the head space, mindfulness can help us get back connected and integrate that physical and mental body. And then finally, our senses. So using all the 5 and maybe 6 senses as anchors that we can focus on. So I'd love to start with one that combines a practice that combines a few of those. And you may know this practice already, but I encourage you to do it together with us. And it's called finger breathing. Some people call it finger tracing. So all you need is your hands and your breath nearby. And once again, it always helps to find your seat and find your feet on the ground so that you feel anchored to something steady. I have a rolly chair, so that can be interesting, but I try to stay pretty steady. It can help to have somewhat of an upright spine that not only gives us a dignity or a regal feeling, a good posture, but it also increases our access to the vagus nerve. So the nerve in our body connecting the gut and the brain that has a lot to do, has really positive effects on health if we tone it and are aware of it. So anyway, that's a little bit of how you want to sit. And then if you'd hold out one hand and use the pointer finger of your other hand, the practice is simple. Starting at the base of your thumb, as you inhale, you'll trace up. And as you exhale, you'll trace down. So you're welcome to join me, tracing up each finger with an inhale and tracing down each finger with an exhale. And if you have littles, this is a great time for them to join you. They probably wonder what you're doing already. Like, what are you doing? See, I'm just tracing my fingers. I'm just feeling the sensation of tracing and matching that to my breath. So once you get to the end of your hand, you just start the other way, breathing in. And you might even notice, is my breath fast or slow? Is it shallow or deep? And can I train my mind, that's the trick, to focus on the sensation of tracing and the feeling of breathing. And your mind might wander. That's the way the mind is. But we just gently use that kindness and curiosity, bring it back. So you might want to change this up and try your non-dominant hand. So I assume you were tracing with your dominant finger. You might want to change it up and try with the other hand. And I'm curious, is there anyone out there? It's harder for me to see you in virtual land, that this is way too tickly. It's like, ugh. It's a little tickly for me. Yeah, it's a little tickly for me. Yep. So if that's you, if you're a sensory person and that's too light of a touch, I like firm touch. Options are to press finger pads together. So breathing in and breathing out, each one at a time, breathing in and out. That can be nice. And then even better is squeezing, and this is just my preference, squeezing the whole digit. So really giving a nice press on the inhale and release on the exhale. Pressing. That can feel so good. So you can imagine someone who's triggered or feeling kind of emotionally really excited or out of whack maybe. This can be very settling for the body. And you can go through it together. Let's do it together, one at a time, pressing in and out. And my big secret, I hate going to the dentist. I do this at the dentist. No one needs to know. My hands are on my lap and I'm just touching one knuckle at a time, breathing in and breathing out. Completely settles me. And before I know it, whew, they're done. I also love watching the TV if your dentist has one of those nature TVs. It's a beautiful combination. So one simple practice for you to stick in your toolbox, that's finger breathing or finger tracing. And I'm curious if anyone would like to unmute and just share, what was that like for you? Very simple mindfulness practice. You can raise hands or you can
I'll
unmute.
start. Thanks for adding the non-tickly version. My 4-year-old, I'm pretty sure, has sensory processing disorder, and he's doing OT, and the squeezing is great. And he has a dentist appointment tomorrow, so I think we'll be trying that.
Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? So another way to adapt this, if you think about someone who loves pressure, so say you're with a child that's having a hard time, they could be on your lap, they could be facing you, so you could sit cross-legged with knees touching and hold one another's forearms or shoulders and do that. Let's breathe in and squeeze, or they could do it to themselves, squeeze and release. It's just giving the body that reset. It's giving the nervous system an opportunity to reset. And then focuses on, it pivots that focus from whatever the upset is to I can manage this, and it gives some empowerment to the child. That's great to know. Yeah. So pressure, it's a good option. And they didn't share that when I first learned this at a training. I figured it out from practicing with other people and from my own body, that it was just like, ooh, that feels so tickly. Yeah. So thank you for that feedback. That's great. So one first practice to stick in your pocket. So why would we do this? I wanted to share 2 reasons. There's so many reasons why you might want to practice mindfulness for yourself or with your family. And I mentioned one, and that is learning to be present with whatever arises is a critical life skill. And that's not our nature. Our nature is things get tough, get me out of here. I was having a hard time last night, and it's like, things get tough, where can I escape to? Can I just, and especially in this environment, it's very difficult because there's not a lot of escape. And we'll talk about some options for that. The second thing is having positive coping mechanisms like this prevents risk. Because when we can't manage what's happening, we use outside things, right? So for you, I don't know if it's shopping or gossiping or over drinking or overeating. We all have our favorite numbing agents. We do that when we can't feel what's going on. So being able to do that for ourselves and then share that capacity with our children is a huge resiliency skill. So learning to be present with whatever arises. And the second one, if you're kind of academically oriented or even life oriented, is calm equals smart. And I learned that phrase from a nice social emotional learning teacher I've been taking some training from, that we want to remember an integrated brain is ready to learn. Like a brain that is integrated with the body and the nervous system is ready to connect with others and be empathetic, make wise decisions, and learn. And so by doing mindfulness, you're raising your functional IQ. You have more access to your prefrontal cortex than when you're upset or nervous or anxious. So those are just two reasons. So that's where I wanted to show you. You may have seen Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain, and it looks like this. You can do it with me. It's another fun thing to teach young people. And teaching young people about their brains and bodies is so empowering because then they understand I'm not crazy or a bad person. My nervous system is just hijacked. So it looks like this. So if you take your hand up and fold your thumb in, this is like your old brain, the root of your brain, the brainstem, and your amygdala is housed on the inside of the brain. And then if you fold this over, you have your prefrontal cortex. So the smart brain, the one that helps us with executive functioning skills, with wise decision-making, with anticipating consequences. You definitely want to be strengthening this in your teenagers. So you can start by practicing now. You can start building that bridge with your little ones. So when we're upset or afraid or triggered, angry, we flip our lid, right? We know that feeling. It's like, whew. And all of a sudden, no matter what age you are a toddler because you are acting from your base brain. And my wise mentor told me this years ago. She said, when you're in conflict with your kids or you're in conflict with your husband or your partner, they might want to solve it right now, but you may be in your toddler brain. It may not be the right place. So we practice mindfulness to bring on the chemicals to soothe that brain and get us back where we want to be, in that wise, connected place. And if that means walking around the block, mom needs a timeout, somebody needs a timeout to walk or to, and we'll talk about a couple other strategies to really ease that, bring back on that nervous system where you want to be. It is a cool visual and kids get it and adults get it. It's like, oh, mom, you'll even see young people telling their parents, Mom, it sounds like you're about to flip your lid. Let's take 3 breaths together. Children can be amazing mindfulness coaches. And that's something I aspire to in the future, training more young people to teach and lead each other. And I'll tell you a beautiful story in the high school. There's a high school teacher that starts her English or humanities classes with a mindfulness practice. And one day, the students were in a very heated argument. And I don't know if it was political or what it was about, but they were in a very heated argument. And one of the students said, hey, I think we need to take a break. We all need to settle down, ground, and get back into a wise place. And she just said, I can't do it. She was also very upset. And another student said, I'll do it. I'll lead the mindfulness practice for everyone. And that is that's what we're all about, building capacity. So flipping our lid is a good thing to remember. Another good thing to remember is that mindfulness is not just sitting and breathing. For a lot of people, it's hard to sit still. It's hard to focus on our breath. So I'd love to do a movement practice next. And this is where it's an invitation. You can join me and stand. You could modify this to seated if that's more comfortable. But if you'd like to, you can also turn off your camera. If you'd love to join me, just join me behind or beside your chair. Roll that out of the way. Ooh, shake out the excitement a little bit first. You can shake it off. And even brush it off. This is a great practice too. Just brush anything that's worrying you, or if you're still feeling unsettled, just brush that off. And then bring the hands by your side and bring your feet about hip width apart. Or if you're seated, you can put your feet on the ground about hip width apart and bring your hands out in front of you and begin to feel your breath in your body. So wherever you notice it, just breathing in and breathing out. Take a few deep breaths. This is called elevator breath. So as we breathe in, we'll bring the hands up to about chest level, just what's comfortable. And as we breathe out, we just bring the hands back down. So syncing the movement to your breath, your pace of breath, just breathing in and breathing out. If it helps you to focus to count, you could imagine that your elevator is going up a few floors. In my building, it's 3 floors, so I could just do 1, 2, 3, inhale, and 1, 2, 3, exhale. Just feeling the sensation of the breath and really feeling your hands moving through space. And if your mind wanders, it's kind of like a puppy or a balloon floating off. You just pull on the string of the balloon and bring your mind back. We're just moving and breathing. Feeling the earth below your feet, your knees just with a gentle bend. And if you'd like to add a basement to your breath, you can breathe in 1, 2, 3, and breathe out maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. See if you can extend that exhale just a bit. Feeling the shoulders relax down, the body settle. Hopefully the mind settle just a bit. And let this be your last inhale and exhale, wherever you are. And then join me back in a seat. Take a moment just to notice the effects of a little bit of movement. And I'd love to hear how that was, if anyone has feedback on a little mindful movement practice. How is that, the same or different? And you can chat in the chat or you can unmute if you'd like to.
I definitely do better when I'm moving, and I like the visual and the imagery of pulling on the balloon string. That was really helpful because my mind does, I'm sure everyone's tends to wander quite a bit.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, and using that kind of imagery instead of the way we often are being critical or why can't I do this or I'm not doing this right, just being, oh, look, there goes my mind again on a mental vacation. Come back, because the training of the neural pathways is really in the bringing back. It's in the each time we notice that we're drifting away or spiraling into negative thinking, each time we notice telling the brain, I'm okay. I'm right here. I'm just breathing. I'm in my body. That is where the strength really lies. Yes, yoga and mindfulness have a lot of similarities. So if you're doing a yoga practice that includes breath and movement and then focused attention, it's a very similar thing. So I love that. Kids are in school and they're like, what is she doing? I want to join in. So know on the school side, we are training as many teachers as possible to use these as brain breaks, as transition helps, as settle in practices in the morning, because we know when we sit, man, everything just kind of settles, our posture gets crunched up, it's hard to learn. And so that's what I wanted to say. That was sort of a settling practice if you're feeling anxious and you need to get grounded. Same movement, but a little bigger from yoga is called breath of joy. So if you're the opposite end of the spectrum, you need your nervous system to get revved up a bit. So you're feeling sluggish, unmotivated. You would want to do that much faster. And you would do it, I'll just show you. Ooh, my chair's rolly. You would do it bringing arms all the way up and then folding at the waist and coming all the way down. So breathing up on an inhale and coming down fast. That can really energize. And if you add horse breath, so on the way down, or a shh breath, or even a humming, that brings on a secondary response. So this gets into a lot of theory, but from trauma-informed practice, creating a vibration in the body also helps us settle, heal, can be really good. So any kind of humming, shushing, horse breath is just the most fun. So that is breath of joy. And that is if you need an energetic boost rather than a calming boost. And I'm out of breath from just doing that little bit of breath of joy, but I feel so joyful. So anyone, I'm curious if you know, because it took me a while in teaching mindfulness. Oh, that's so nice, using vibration. Yes, many people naturally hum during labor. We know that that's a soothing mechanism. I just got the book, My Grandmother's Hands. I cannot wait to read it. It's by a wonderful man who is bringing his own cultural traditions back into the healing of trauma. And he talks about rocking and humming, or swaying and humming. It's very, very beautiful. So I'm curious, it took me a long time to realize that not everyone is an anxious tendency person like me. So a little too revved up and needing to calm down. That especially when I teach teenagers, they often have an underactive nervous system. So the more sluggish or unmotivated nervous system. So it's good to know both the energizing ones and also the calming ones, depending on who you're supporting or what kind of support you need in your body. Fun, I love that. I love breath of joy. It is an immediate uplifter. So I'd like to turn to our current situation and just acknowledge, and we did this in the write-up for this session today, if you are feeling afraid, if you're feeling irritable, even angry, moments of deep sadness or grief, I hope you know that that is totally normal and that many of us are feeling the same way, unfortunately. And I hear from teaching staff, from parents all over the community that our nervous system, if the only way to describe it is it feels like our nervous systems are on overdrive. We just feel like we've been in fight or flight this whole time. And I think in times of uncertainty, that's where our nervous system goes to. It's a protective mechanism. It was built to protect us from danger. The problem is, not only in a pandemic, but in normal life, normal modern life, our body doesn't distinguish between mental threats and physical threats. So in our town, of course, you could be chased by a bear or a mountain lion. That's could happen, but usually we're chased by financial worries or worries for our children in the future, or maybe worries about our relationships or our jobs or any kind of maybe future security. And our bodies don't distinguish that from being chased by a bear. And the accumulated stress of that, if we don't have a way to release it, is unhealthy. Because in the olden days, we chased the bear or the bear chased us. And then we went to the campfire and we told the stories about how big the bear was and how scary the bear was and how brave we were. And we gathered around in community and released all that cortisol, released all the adrenaline, the negative, or they're just chemicals. They're not necessarily negative. They actually have some protective qualities in the body. But so that is what we need now. We need rapid resets. So we need to figure out these practices to get our bodies back into the parasympathetic stress response, which is our rest and digest place, or our tend and befriend place. It's a place where we connect. And as adults in the community, parents and guardians, I think it's important for us to realize that when we're dysregulated, dysregulated adults cause dysregulated children. So you may have noticed that when you're feeling especially irritable, everybody around you, I mean, even my spouse, who I don't think of as super have the biggest emotional antennae in the world, notices and is like, what's wrong with you? You're the anchor. Why are you so somehow? So when we can't find that grounded, safe place, it's hard for our children to feel safe. So if anything, to take away from this, knowing your self-care is foundational. It's actually the most important job that you have. And then it's so hard to do, I know, but carving out time and knowing that these are sustainable practices. If you can weave it into everything you do, it's not like you have to go to the gym for an hour or go on a cruise for 7 days to recover. Someday we'll be able to do. So I wanted to just list out, and you can take notes or just remember this. There are a few things you can do that are quick, rapid resets. And some of these I took from an article. Any kind of stretching, so any kind of body movement, climbing a rope, reaching across the back, the crossbody, especially your kids who are learning to read, reaching across the meridian, jumping. So getting that gross motor feeling in your joints, jumping on a mini trampoline or just jumping around, pogo sticks. Oh my goodness, my kids spent a year on a pogo stick, just jumping. And pushing a wall. So just going up, it sounds like the craziest thing, but going to a wall and pushing against the wall and breathing. So feeling that support back, carrying heavy things. So just telling your kid, I need you to carry this box of books to my room. Now I need you to carry this other box of books to my room. It doesn't have to be purposeful. Just make up some heavy lifting work. Or maybe you have a pile of bricks or a pile of wood that needs to be moved. Great job for any age person. We mentioned the humming. So singing, humming, drumming, anything rhythmic, very, very soothing and regulating for the nervous system. And there are lots of really nice drumming videos on YouTube now where you can just drum along with someone who can drum better than you can, just make it really loud. And then you just feel like you're in the midst of an awesome drum jam. And then finally, taking a 5 senses walk. So we are so fortunate to have nature right near us. Going out and really saying, I am going to name everything I can see, name everything I can smell, name everything I can feel, everything I can hear. Nature has a healing power that is, I think, underestimated, and it gives us a new perspective. So especially right now when we're so closed in, opening up the world by getting out to a new perspective is awesome. Even if it's only 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you can do once you're on the block. So I'm wondering if anyone would like to share if they have a rapid reset practice that works for themselves personally or for your family. I love to draw on the group brain and gather our knowledge. What is your rapid reset?
So I'll share, just because it's funny. I think it's funny. And sorry, I have 3 kids and I'm a single mom, so there's a lot of noise going on in the background. So bear with me. They may be screaming in a minute.
And thank you, Kate, for inviting me. We love kids.
Yeah, I'm doing the best I can. But we have what we call come to Jesus meetings, and we just sit down and figure out what what is causing the ruffleness, I guess. And we talk it out and make sure that the kids know that they're safe, secure, that whatever we're going through or whatever is causing the ruffleness, that we address it without it being a problem. We don't want to ever make sure that what they're going through, they're real feelings, they're real emotions. I try to make sure that they know that if they're sad, it's okay to be sad, but we got to figure out why you're sad and make sure that it doesn't become a bigger problem. So that's what we do.
Thank you, Katerina. I so appreciate you sharing that. You just affirmed so many things, I think, that we're not taught as parents, and that is that all behavior is a message. It's not a bad thing. It's just a message that some needs aren't being met or something's going wrong, right? So just figuring out the behavior, affirming the feelings. So saying it's okay to feel this way and just getting it out in the open, because when we are not mindful, and you saw the image of all this stuff in the head, when we're not mindful, we're reactive. And we're acting out of habits, out of old scripts, just out of the old skills that we had. And when we can talk it out, we can say, wow, I saw you really acting like this, knowing that it was probably just a trigger or something. Let's talk about what's really going on. Instead of just, I think some of us, when we're stressed and at the end of our rope, we go straight to discipline, like, stop doing that. I just want you to stop doing that. Yeah. So thank you for that. That's awesome. Anyone else want to share? What's a reset for you or for your family?
I send my kids to walk the dog because we have tiny little dogs that are insanely strong. And so it's heavy work, and it's outside, and it's, you know, fresh air, but it's definitely the heavy work that really helps them because the dogs are dragging them. And I live on one of the big old hills here too. So the dogs are dragging them up the hill.
I love that. I have met more of my neighborhood kids because they look like they were sent to walk the dog, or they're sent to run around the block. They're just like running around the block. It's so cute. So we had baby fawns this year, and then I got to invite them to see the baby fawns in the yard. It was really cool. Yeah. Any last person want to share a reset that works for you? What about for you as an adult? What do you do for yourself to rapid reset, or even not so rapid reset?
Three breaths.
Deep breaths, yeah.
Well, I'll share again if it's okay. Not that I have a rapid reset. Kate and I are working on that. But as a single mom, I'm learning that I have to. I don't have a choice. I have to make sure that I'm okay by my mind, body, spirit, to just so that I can be a better mom for them. So we're working on that. It's a work in progress.
I'm so glad to hear that. And you can see many of us, I saw the looks on a lot of our faces like, I'm not sure. So this is your homework to figure out. And my awesome colleague, Brandy and Kate, we talk about it as the concept of filling your cup, that it's really impossible. It's so hard to pour from an empty cup, but it's also hard in our modern time. And right now, when we're all together, to figure out, how do I do this? How do I do it when I don't have time or energy or motivation? And so I would say, bring your kids in, do it together. Just say, you need this as much as I do. Try any way you can to carve out time for yourself. You know, put it on the calendar as a big rock. You know, we have big rocks, middle rocks, and little tiny rocks. You may have to schedule it for yourself. I know I do. Oh, I love that. So looking out to nature and connecting to that. And I mean, something you love, and you love to learn about naming a bird. It's beautiful. It gets you back to that present moment. And then figuring out ways to weave it in however you can throughout the day. So some people I know in classes I've taught before, we've made little stretchy bracelets or even put a hairband. And every time you notice it, you switch it to the other wrist and do a mindfulness practice. So whether it's 3 breaths or 10 full body squats, if you like burpees, I don't, you could do that. So whatever, there was a challenge the other day of do so many squats in a day. Just do it 5 times throughout the day. There's so many ways we can weave it in if we just remember. So you might need a visual reminder or even a sticky note. Just put the sticky notes all over me. Love me, you know, whatever works for you, or 10 squats or 3 deep breaths. Yeah, we all have time for 3 deep breaths. All right. So another, similar to the 5 senses walk, is the 3 things practice. And that one is easy. It's another grounding practice if you're with someone who's really upset or you're upset or feeling stuck. And it's simply, it's nice to pick a color first. So I might pick the color white. Right now I see a lot of white, and say, look around outside and inside and name 3 things that are white. And you just look around. So I see a piece of white paper, I see white snow, and I see a white lamp. And then name 3 things you can hear. So it's really weirdly quiet in my house right now. But I can hear a snowplow. And I think I can hear a cat snoring. That's weird. And I hear my chair kind of creaking. So I'm really sinking into the moment. I had to stretch my ear because all of a sudden it's very quiet. Then 3 things I can feel. So right now, name 3 things to yourself you can feel. I can feel my feet on the floor. I can feel my sweater on my arms. And I feel my hands are really cold right now. So that's another practice you can go through that's very grounding. It's very grounding for children and can hone your focus and help you settle in. So stick that one in your pocket. So we want to acknowledge, not only during a pandemic, this is tough. I mean, this is so tough. We need these resiliency skills more than ever, and probably at a higher intensity that we normally would. I love that, naming a challenging emotion and then noting it in something like a bullet journal. And then just acknowledging it exactly. So we do a couple of practices that are labeling practices where you can, and it can help to place your hand on the heart and just say, oh, anxiety. This is what anxiety feels like, or, oh, anger, this is what anger feels like. And sometimes just naming it. And that's another Dan Siegel, I think it's Dan Siegel quote is, name it to tame it. And we also say, whatever you can breathe with, you can be with. So we know that if we can breathe through things, we can handle them. And that's a great mantra to tell your kids, I can handle this. I'm safe, I can handle this. So yeah, but it is also to note, even not in these intense times, our tendency as humans are to worry about the future. So constantly let our mind tumble into the future in anticipation or planning or whatever. Most of the time it doesn't come true, at least in my experience. Or if you're more melancholy, maybe you linger in the past. You think about the good old days and how it was or how it could have been. But noting that really all we have is the present moment. So when we really try to put our finger on it, all we have is this time right now. So mindfulness brings a quality of savoring and of gratitude, of just, even when it's hard, finding the little tiny pieces that we can be grateful for. And a structured gratitude practice in a bullet journal or on a piece of paper in your mind is another research-based practice that can ease symptoms of depression and really train those neural pathways toward the positive. So away from, Rick Hansen says, we are Velcro for the negative and Teflon for the positive. And that is true. How many times do you remember that negative comment or something dumb you did, and it sticks and sticks and sticks? And then the positive, someone says how awesome you are. It's like, Teflon, woo, that sat with me for 2 seconds, right? That feels familiar to people. So we have to train our brains for the positive. It's just a neural pathway thing. So maybe we're evolving to be more positive, but I'm not sure. We're still kind of in that fight or flight neuro system way. So I want to show you flower breathing. It is snowy. So let's imagine crocuses or something that might possibly come out of snow. I couldn't think of a snow metaphor today. I wasn't feeling creative. Flower breathing is simply bringing your hands to little nubs together, and this one won't be tickly. And again, find your seat. Feel yourself settled so that you feel supported. Feel yourself a little bit upright, the crown of the head rising up. So you're freeing up that vagal nerve and freeing up your breathing torso, all the space. And as you breathe in, just let your fingers imagine crocuses, whatever color you love, and let your fingers gently open on the inhale. Ooh, my shoulders are tight. And I just noticed, and let them close on the exhale. So allow your shoulders to relax a little. If you're wearing them like earrings, like I tend to do, let them relax down the body. And as you inhale, open the fingers. And you exhale, close. And if you'd like, you could close your eyes or just soften your gaze to ease your distraction. Inhaling, open. And exhaling, close. You might even want to watch your fingers. Seeing a visual. So you're bringing in the senses. You're feeling your fingers and the movement. You're feeling the breath in the body. And just letting yourself settle. And if the mind dances around, you just say, oh, mind, that's so cute. Why don't you just come back to moving and breathing, to settling in. And then if you bring your hands to the edges of your screen, so if you can, and we'll be little flowers together. So you can reach out with your fingers. I know this is our little community connection for today. You can let your flower grow open. Oh, and there go my shoulders again. I'm all, oh, this is weird. And then let your fingers close so we can inhale together. And exhale, close your flower. And one more inhale. And exhale completely. And then let your hands rest in your lap. And soak in any thoughts or emotions, physical sensations that brought. And just to point to the physiology of this, we know that, and focusing on breathing is hard for some people. So just know if it feels weird or it makes you feel a little bit anxious, a little bit of practice might help. So it might help you build that capacity. But in general, breathing in deeply through the nose and exhaling through the mouth can bring on the relaxation response. So there's a physiology to that. And when we did elevator together and we breathed in 3 and then maybe breathe out 4 or 5, the idea is a longer exhale can help bring on the relaxation response. So that's a little bit of a controlled breath. You can play with that, whether that works for you or not. And that's true of any of these tools. You find what works. But you could play with that, maybe breathing in 4 and breathing out 6, and just see what kind of effect that has on your mind and on your body. Just
Public Health Office, this is Denny.
Oh, hi, Denny. There she goes. She's at Public Health today. All right, so any thoughts, any reactions or thoughts to that, either that practice or to the idea of breath being able to bring on a relaxation response? Any feedback about that?
Every time I do one of the things, I'm suddenly like, oh, my body. Like I'm like, oh, I feel that catch I have right here. Okay.
And you noticed even leading the practice, I was noticing that in my body. It was interrupting my ability to even be fully present. I'm having a lot of shoulder tension, I think, from working at the desk too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we bring that awareness, we know, oh, I need a little self-care here. Like I need to maybe doing some cat-cows, doing a little bit of gentle stretching to ease that, just knowing. Our body wants to send us message. It's usually we just turn it off, like not listening. And then another common response is people feel extremely tired. So we do this and they think, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. And that points to, we really need to work on our sleep hygiene and get more sleep. Yeah.
I love that you just said that, Kristine, because that was what I was just going to say is I always feel tired afterwards, but I love that you also taught us how to energize ourselves and that helps too.
Yeah, good to note. And those can be some of the things that turn people off mindfulness, honestly, is people say, it made me sleepy, it made me more anxious, it didn't work for me, I don't like sitting still. And I encourage you, if your body's sending you those messages, you're probably at the edge of your stretch zone. So your body is probably saying, I might need this, but I'm not sure I really want this. And we want to be in that stretch zone. So there's the safe zone, stretch zone, panic zone. We don't want to stay in the panic zone. You always want to retreat back if it feels like too much or is discomforting, but we want to stretch ourselves. And so I often tell people when I teach, I do a lot of movement and a lot of sitting. And I tell people, I always ask people, which one do you like better? A lot of people like the sitting still better. A lot of people like moving. And I encourage people, if you don't like the other one, that might be where the arrow is pointing where you need to practice. It might be exact. Sometimes the medicine we don't want is the medicine we really need. Good. Yeah. Mindfulness can be an early radar system telling us, oh, something's starting to irritate me, or I might be getting sick, or I might need to do some kind of body work. It's a really nice system for noticing things earlier. When we're busy and overwhelmed and distracted, we often don't notice those little messages. Adding to breath of joy. So if you like the bigger movements, bringing your hands out straight and then open into a T can feel really nice. So exhaling, inhaling up and stretching out, and then exhaling down. The one I showed you, climbing a rope, and just feeling it in your body, and then twisting. It's always good just to do a gentle twist for our spine. So I think the last thing I want to say is small times, many times. Susan Kaiser Greenland is amazing. She's one of the mothers who brought secular mindfulness to children. And she says, small times, many times. You don't want to do this for 45 minutes, or especially if you're working with your children, 30 seconds of something like this or 2 minutes can make a difference. And that repetition strengthens the neural pathways. It strengthens us toward positivity, toward focus and attention. We want to have a really flexible nervous system that can go on high alert when it needs to, but can back off when we need to rest. Think of it as inner strength training. And the last practice I want to leave you with is one of my favorites. It's called the 3-breath practice. And it's really good for conflict. So if you're in conflict with someone, remember I talked about when your lid's about to flip or it already flipped, or if your children or you have trouble with impulse control, it's a really good one. So essentially the 3-breath practice is structured for you to take the first breath for me, the second breath for the other person or the situation, if there's not another person, and the third breath for what's next. And if you do this long and slow, so if you're ready to yell or you're ready to throw something or send the email, so before you hit the button, take 1 breath for yourself, 1 breath for the other person, because they have wants and needs too. Sometimes when we're upset, we can't see that other, and this helps kids with conflict too. I have them draw the conflict on a little card. And I say, take 1 breath for you. This is you person, what you're thinking, feeling, wanting. Take 1 breath for the other person. That's a little stick person. You can even do bubbles. This is what they were thinking, feeling, wanting from the situation. And that last breath for what's next. Now I have choice. I can make a decision from a place of responsiveness, not reactiveness. So 3-breath practice, my favorite. All right, we're 3 minutes before, not much time for questions, but I will take them if you have any questions or comments for me. Or you can even type in the chat if that's better. So hopefully you have a few tools in your toolbox. So you know mindfulness is just paying attention to the present moment, harder than it sounds. And then just a quick review, we did finger breathing or finger squeezing. We did, I'll answer that in just a minute. We did elevator breath. So just bringing the hands up in sync with breath. And remember, movement plus breath brings on relaxation response. Let's see, what else did we do? We talked about breath of joy. We talked about rapid resets and 3 things I can see, hear, and feel. And then the 3-breath practice. So let's talk very quickly. You can do mindfulness practice with the absolute youngest child, with any child. It can be as simple as holding hands. Let's take 3 deep breaths together. Doesn't need a lot of narration. Tuck these words in your pocket. I always say, especially with an older child or any child, feel your feet, because you want to get out of the head and the activation. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your feet steady left to right. Feel your feet, feel your seat, feel your breath in your body. So I'd say you could practice the youngest, but I don't really subscribe, whatever that word is, to doing formal sitting practice with really young children. You're welcome, Ali. So good to see you. There are lots of nice little books that you can get. I think there's a frog one. My daughter just gave me a yoga one for Christmas, little board books that you could do together with children. But really, I think any age can practice together. And then if you have older children, it's really, with teenagers, it's empowering them. So really find your breath in your body. You got this. So it's more about messaging, but then encouraging them with their physiology. Let's settle in before we make a decision. Let's just feel our feet, note what we're feeling, know this is hard, affirm and validate. And then once they can get to the problem solving, unfortunately, usually we go straight to, let's fix this, let's do something, be with them first through the hard part. And then, can I help you think of some solutions, is a good way. It's a wonderful way to connect with kids, and it's great life skills. Yeah, noticing that the patterns for all of us. And sometimes you can call on an older child, or if you're humble enough, a partner or a spouse who can let you know, like, looks like you might need a little 3 deep breaths or time out before. But us developing that skill of noticing is really powerful. And noting the feeling of what's coming up, and then doing something. For older teens or younger kids, anyone, encouraging some kind of physical routine. So whether it's walking, it doesn't have to be complicated, walking, running, drumming, something that I'm noticing our kids are really getting into a sedentary mode. They need to move. We all need to move our bodies. So whether it's just walking, throwing things around in the yard, digging snow, make them do jobs. Yeah, and we're at time. So I want to thank you all so much for coming and for participating. It was great to meet you. Some of you I know, and a lot of new faces.
Thank you so much, Kristine. Thank you everybody for coming. As I said, I recorded this and I'll be posting it later. It takes my computer a ridiculous amount of time to compress it, but I'll get it up there today at some point. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback too. I appreciate it. All right, have a good day.
All right, I think I'm gonna hit the end button. So thank you all, everybody.